The King's Avatar, Chapter 1524 Referee Decision, Audio Source, wushaworldaudiobook.com. Chapter 1524, Referee Decision. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Desert Dust was in the middle of throwing out a punch, when Fang Rui's Boundless Sea escaped. Desert Dust retracted his fists and turned around. His unchanging expression had nothing to do with Han Wenqing's state of mind, although at the moment, Han Wenqing's expression was as heavy as his character's. Many people might not have found any problems with his previous punch, but Han Wenqing knew clearer than anyone else that his punch had been too slow. This wasn't a mistake. Han Wenqing knew that his punch needed to chain together faster, but there was nothing he could do. Perhaps if it were 5 or 10 years ago, that punch would have been unavoidable and would have definitely hit his opponent, but now, some things couldn't be accomplished with just effort. For the current him, it was truly difficult to keep up such a fast pace. When he slowed down just a tiny bit, an opening appeared, and Fang Rui immediately grasped it. What fast reactions! Han Wenqing sighed. Even if he refused to give up, he couldn't help but feel how he was past his prime. He was past his prime, but he didn't hesitate. Desert Dust turned around, facing Boundless Sea. Han Wenqing was already preparing for his next wave of attacks. It hadn't been easy for Fang Rui to get Boundless Sea to escape. He didn't dare provoke Han Wenqing so easily anymore. Boundless Sea swayed left and right, drawing in his opponent's attention, waiting for an opportunity. But Desert Dust unexpectedly stepped back. Everyone was shocked. If Desert Dust had charged forward, even if it was at a bad timing, no one would have been surprised because that was Han Wenqing. Going against the flow, daring to face the dangers, he had done it far too many times. But he retreated. Fang Rui hadn't shown any attempts at an attack, yet he chose to retreat. Perhaps Han Wenqing had realized something. However, retreat had never been a part of Han Wenqing's toolkit. But Boundless Sea swaying suddenly stopped as well. What's going on? Everyone felt like the pace of this match had suddenly turned strange. And the only ones who understood what was going on were the skilled experts. To think things would go this way. How boring. Ye Zhu mumbled. What do you mean? Chen Guo asked. She needs an explanation. Fang Rui's purpose in having Boundless Sea sway left and right was to repeatedly display his intentions to attack. In a high-level confrontation, you have to determine what options are available depending on how the opponent moves. Although Fang Rui's movements look simple, if they go on for a while, it's very exhausting for Han Wenqing, Ye Zhu explained. So you're saying, Fang Rui was planning on wearing out Han Wenqing? Chen Guo said. Yes, Ye Zhu nodded his head. But he probably didn't think that he could just sway his way to victory. With Han Wenqing's personality, once Han Wenqing saw through his intentions, he thought that Han Wenqing would try to break through it by force. He was baiting Han Wenqing to continue with his fast-paced defense, but it looks like Han Wenqing simply decided not to take it and retreated. So what if he retreats? Chen Guo asked. By retreating, he widens his vision and opens up more space between them. That way, he can observe Boundless Sea's movements from a more general perspective, which requires less of his attention, Ye Zhu said. Oh, then why not just have Boundless Sea move forward and keep swaying? Chen Guo said. Then all he needs to do is keep retreating. It's not like he'll be forced into a corner. Fang Rui's move has no value anymore. Insisting on it isn't stylish at all, Ye Zhu said, but when he looked back to the stage, well, it looks like I underestimated his shamelessness. Stylish. How could the master of playing dirty care about something like style? Fang Rui didn't hesitate to do something unstylish. It was just like Chen Guo said. Boundless Sea pressed forward and continued to sway left and right, baring his claws like a crab. Just as Ye Shu said, Han Wenqing simply continued to retreat. The viewers who understood what was going on looked at Fang Rui disdainfully for being so boring. The viewers who didn't understand were confused. Could Boundless Sea's swaying be the start of some sort of trump card? Something threatening enough to force Han Wenqing to retreat. One side advanced, while the other side retreated. Desert Dust moved along an arc to make sure that he wouldn't be pushed to the edges of the map. The two continued like this, and not long afterwards, they had went around half the map. He's really become patient. Ye Shu sighed. If this was the Han Wenqing of the past, Desert Dust would have certainly charged over to punch his opponent by now. What's going to happen if they keep going round and round in circles? Chen Guo asked. The referee will intervene, Ye Shu said. Fang Rui's not planning on continuing until the referee makes his move, is he? Chen Guo said speechlessly. She understood why a player like Fang Rui wasn't suited to be the core of a team. This was too shameless. He's testing Han Wenqing's patience. Wei Chen spoke up. Ye Shu nodded his head. Fang Rui knew that Han Wenqing was dealing with his threats with ease, but if he insisted on continuing with his threats, then that was probably his plan. Fang Rui was using his shamelessness to tear down Han Wenqing. Pressing forward like this was boring and unstylish, but if Han Wenqing followed along and kept retreating, he didn't look any better. 70% of the shamelessness was coming from Fang Rui, but the other 30% was from Han Wenqing cooperating with him. Han Wenqing probably disdained doing something like this, so Fang Rui refusing to give up was intentionally provoking Han Wenqing to act. However, it looked like Han Wenqing was quite tyrannical in terms of his bottom line. They had went around half the map, but Desert Dust's footsteps were as steady as ever. It seemed like he had no intentions of breaking this stalemate. Had he really decided that he would bring down this fight to the lowest point with Fang Rui? Those who understood the fight had mixed feeling about Han Wenqing. The Alliance's symbol of a hot-blooded hero was also going to stoop to this low. After half a circle, they went around another half a circle. The two had now circled around the entire arena. The pace for a 2-minute match had finally been broken, but no one would have expected it to be done in such a shameless method with Han Wenqing joining in on it. After going around an entire circle, Fang Rui had no trouble keeping up the shamelessness. Boundless Sea continued to sway freely left and right. It looked like he would have no issue going for another 100 circles. As for Han Wenqing, if he really did go around 100 circles with Fang Rui, the image that he had upheld for 10 years would be completely destroyed. WuxaWorldAudio.com. That was what the people who understood what they were watching thought. What would happen next? Everyone had mixed feelings. Finally, when the two started their second circle around, the envoy of justice, the referee, couldn't endure it any longer. Please display proper competitive attitude. Quote, a system notification appeared. Ha! Fang Rui laughed as a reply to the referee. Boundless Sea immediately paused, followed by a punch from Desert Dust. Fuck, how despicable. Boundless Sea went flying. Fang Rui typed furiously. A yellow card lit up, along with punches and kicks. Everyone was wide-eyed. Fang Rui very rarely had the opportunity to call others despicable. Usually, he was the one being despicable. But this time, honestly speaking, Fang Rui was right. He unexpectedly seized the moment Fang Rui was responding to the referee's call to attack. The glory competitive rules never stated that the two sides need to immediately stop when the referee made a decision, but the referee decision would definitely influence the fight in some way. During this time, the players would make certain adjustments. Han Wenking decisively launched his fiercest attacks, strike Fang Rui while he was responding to the referee with the Ha. This was most definitely a dirty move. Fang Rui had even used it at the start of the round. He had sent a message to Lin Jingyan, who wasn't even playing, in an attempt to distract his opponent and used that as an opportunity to attack. And now, Han Wenking had used the referee's decision instead. Han Wenking. Pan Lin didn't know what to say. What rich experience. He anticipated that the referee would intervene. The moment the referee intervened, there would be a change in tempo, and he used this opportunity to attack. Li Yibo didn't hesitate, immediately explained the situation to Pan Lin. He made it sound like the move from Han Wenking wasn't a dirty sneak attack. Li Yibo used to be from Tyranny, after all. Han Wenking had been his captain. This time, Li Yibo clearly showed his bias in defending him. Yeah, what rich experience, to anticipate even something like this. Pan Lin instinctively agreed with Li Yibo. In the end, Han Wenking won the battle of patience. Fang Rui wasn't focused enough, even responding to the referee with the Ha. This superfluous act led to him losing the initiative. Li Yibo was playing favorites today. After praising Han Wenking, he criticized Fang Rui. His words were correct though. It was just that he intentionally overlooked how dirty such a move was. He should be able to win. Pan Lin said. Strikers were exceptional at close combat. It was common for them to kill their opponents in one go after getting close to them. Fang Rui had been able to escape from Han Wenking previously, and this time, by launching a sneak attack when Fang Rui's attention was elsewhere, he put himself in a very favorable position. Fang Rui, who had been baiting Han Wenking, had been mentally prepared initially, but when the referee decision came, he indeed got careless. Because of the referee announcement, his previous plan stopped there. He hadn't thought that Han Wenking would actually take advantage of the referee to launch his offense that he had been waiting to do. Whether or not a move was dirty had never been something Fang Rui was concerned with. When he cursed at Han Wenking's despicableness, Fang Rui had been upset with himself. To think he would overlook the possibility of launching a sneak attack when the referee came to a decision. His own dirty playstyle wasn't dirty enough. End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 1525. A Historic Clash. Audio source, wuxia-world-audiobook.com. Chapter 1525. A Historic Clash. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. I lost. Fang Rui shook his head as he walked down from the stage. His greatest strength was his dirtiness, yet he actually lost because of a dirty move from his opponent. Like a swimmer drowning, it was too disgraceful. Fuck Han Wenking. When he returned back to the player bench, he took the towel that his teammates handed over, but he didn't wipe his hands. Instead, he threw the towel hard against the seats as if Han Wenking was sitting there. If you were my opponent, I definitely wouldn't have fallen for that. Fang Rui said honestly to Yizhu. Nah, you definitely would have. Yizhu replied back honestly. Definitely wouldn't have. Definitely would have. Chen Guo felt a bit confused, but after thinking about it for a bit, she understood. Fang Rui meant that he had been careless because Han Wenking wasn't the type to play dirty. If he had been against Yizhu, he definitely wouldn't have been so careless because Yizhu was someone who did play dirty, but Yizhu was denying it. Pay attention to the match. Stop arguing. Chen Guo scolded the two. Little Tang, good luck. Destroy him. Fang Rui immediately turned around and called out to Tang Rou. But because of how loud the audience was, his voice could no longer reach her. Chen Guo felt deeply worried. Yishu had won a lead at the cost of his energy, but not only had they lost their lead, they had fallen behind. Han Wenking had beaten two of Happy's players. He lost almost no health against Su Mucheng, and although his fight with Fang Rui had taken a long time, half of the time, they were just running around. The other half of the time he had the initiative. Fang Rui hadn't been able to land any effective combos. He had only been able to trade a few blows while he was defending against Han Wenking. In the end, Desert Dust won with 59% of his health left, and much of this was because Han Wenking had often taken blows that he could have avoided in order to keep up his offense. 1v3. Tyranny's home crowd had already begun shouting for a 1v3. Considering he had beaten two players and still had over half of his health left, it was a very reasonable expectation. On stage, Han Wenking, Tang Rou, Desert Dust, Soft Mist, Striker, Battle Mage. 10 years ago, it was these two classes that began the longest rivalry in the Glory Alliance. The two weren't teammates, but Han Wenking was incomparably familiar with this class and was very proficient against them. Facing battle mages not named Yishu, Han Wenking had an astonishingly high win rate. Apart from a few rather extreme situations in the group arena, in a fair 1v1, Han Wenking had never lost against a battle mage. At the Season 8 All-Stars, one Autumn Leaf's successor, Sun Xiang, who was the most skilled battle mage of the new generation, had fought against a Han Wenking past his prime. In the end, Han Wenking still came out on top. Now, he was facing Tang Rou, this season's best rookie and a battle mage. But no matter the battle mage, there was always a shadow of Yishu. Even the proud Sun Xiang had practiced hard to learn Yishu's dragon raises its head. As for Tang Rou, she had been taught by Yishu, and there was no escaping his legacy. However, Han Wenking discovered that not only were there shadows of Yishu in Tang Rou, there were also shadows of himself. This girl also liked to be fierce and aggressive, wanting to use force to destroy everything, just like him. Attack, attack, and attack, never retreating, always attacking. It didn't matter how much health was lost, as long as the opponent was injured more. This was their style, and Han Wenking couldn't be any more familiar with it. A familiar opponent and familiar self. The shadows of these two rivals had overlapped in her. How difficult would it be to face this sort of opponent? Han Wenking sucked in a deep breath and focused. The match began. Dragon breaks the ranks. Without any hesitation, the moment Tang Rou loaded into the map, Soft Mist launched an attack. In this small map, for these two players, the start of the match was like a gunshot signaling the start of a 100 meters dash. Who would be faster? Tang Rou. Tang Rou's Soft Mist was faster because Han Wenking chose to run away as soon as the match began. A decision that he would have never done in the past had once again appeared another fight today. This time, because he was familiar with himself and his opponent's playstyle, he chose not to make this a contest of speed. In the past, he would often like to win this way, seeing who was faster, who was fiercer. But now, Han Wenking was very clear about how his hand speed and reaction speed had slowed down. He couldn't compare with his past self. So he used what reaction and hand speed he had to dodge. Boom. The dash from Dragon Breaks the Ranks seemed to explode as it swept past Desert Dust. It failed to hit, but just the surging magic energy from it shook Desert Dust. However, this was all within Han Wenking's expectations. Desert Dust borrowed this force to spin his body, using a whirlwind kick to strike Soft Mist's back. Peng! The sound of a collision sounded. The instant Tang Rou realized that the Dragon Breaks the Ranks would miss, she cancelled the skill. Dragon Breaks the Ranks was a high-level skill with little starting or ending lag. It could be considered an abnormality among high-level skills. Soft Mist turned around. Before her dragon breaks the ranks had completely dissipated, she used a sky strike, blocking a whirlwind kick from Desert Dust. The two characters ricocheted back. They readjusted themselves and charged forward again. When two players of this playstyle met, the result was going to be an intense battle. However, from their first exchange, it could be seen that the two relied on different things. Han Wenking relied more on his experience and his understanding of battle mages, and Tang Rou, guessing what his opponent would do next. As for Tang Rou, she relied on her fast reaction and hand speed. It was always Han Wenking's Desert Dust making the first move and then her reacting, catching up and not losing out. The two were locked in combat. Their health plummeted. In this sort of confrontation, how could there not be fierce trades? It was just that even though Han Wenking's Desert Dust was losing in terms of health, he had other players behind him. As for Tang Rou's Soft Mist, even though she came in with full health, after this even fight with Han Wenking, even if she won, she would be facing the next opponent heavily injured. This was why players like Han Wenking and Tang Rou weren't suited for the group arena, especially with 5 players rotating. Their brave advances often led to trades, health for health. If they could completely suppress their opponents, it worked out well. But in today's match, force against force, it was unlikely that either side would be winning without losing much health. If this continued, Happy would win this round, but their hopes for the group arena as a whole weren't optimistic. Sigh. Little Tang. Even Chen Guo felt that it wouldn't be good if this continued. What's wrong? I think she's playing very well, Yi Shu said. Tyranny still has another player. Chen Guo reminded Yi Shu. Did he count wrong? If she doesn't play like this, she probably won't even be able to see the next player, Yi Shu said. Wuxia Do you think Little Tang has a better chance at winning against Han Wenking meeting force with force, or by slowly playing it out in a contest of experience, decision-making, and technique? Yi Shu said. Chen Guo was stumped. Experience, decision-making, technique. A contest with Han Wenking. Chen Guo already knew the answer. Through a spurt of energy, she still has a chance. But if she slows down the pace, it'll be much more difficult. Yi Shu said. The fight was like a whirlwind, decided in less than a minute. Tang Rou, but she sacrificed much of her health in doing so. Soft Mist only had 50% of her health left, exactly half of it. The two traded blow for blow, with neither side able to gain an advantage over the other. In the end, it could only be a draw. Tyranny's fans were feeling quite regretful about this outcome. They had hoped to see a 1v3 from their captain on this playoff stage. It would truly be too amazing of a comeback. However, doing this much was already an outstanding performance. When Han Wenking walked down from the stage, the applause was thunderous. Apart from that, Tyranny's fans also felt that Tang Rou was quite admirable, daring to face their captain so bravely. Of course, if she had been a different class, it would have been even more admirable. They had a subconscious hate for battle mages. The group arena was at the final match point. Tyranny's 5th player appeared on the big screen. Song Qiang, Striker, River Sunset. A new generation battle mage against a new generation striker. The two would be facing each other on the stage. However, they didn't have the personalities of their seniors. Although Tang Rou's battle mage had absorbed much of Yi Shu's techniques, her style was a complete opposite of Yi Shu's. As for Song Qiang, he was rumored to be Han Wenking's successor, but his playstyle was more similar to his vice-captain's. It was the complete opposite of Han Wenking's. But no matter how much their styles had changed, the subject of this confrontation would never change. Victory. Only victory mattered. As soon as the match began, Soft Mist rushed forward. She didn't use Dragon Breaks the ranks, instead running to start her offense. With only 50% of her health left, she needed to gain the upper hand. And Tang Rou. She was most proficient at establishing advantages through aggression. And in this simple map, there was no better method. Song Qiang was very calm. Although he wasn't as experienced as Han Wenqing, he knew what Tang Rou needed. He calmly avoided her rush. Then, he didn't immediately counterattack like Han Wenqing did. Such a forceful counterattack would quickly result in the two sticking together. Even though trading blows would be an effective strategy for him since he had the health lead, it wasn't his style, so he didn't do it. Perhaps this was tyranny's true style. It wasn't just pressing onward relentlessly, but tenaciously persevering with one's own path. End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 1526. A match decided by force. Audio source, wuxia-world-audiobook.com. Chapter 1526. A match decided by force. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. The pace of the group arena had slowed for a second time after the match between Fang Rui and Han Wenqing. This definitely wasn't the pace that Tang Rou was hoping for. Under these circumstances, it wasn't hard to figure out who held the advantage. Song Qiang. He was a rookie too. Compared to Tang Rou, he had started playing Glory much earlier. He had also gone through the same training camp as Chinmayun and had a solid foundation. He controlled the pace of the fight extremely well, ruining Tang Rou's plans. She wasn't able to break open this 1v1 situation. The pro players watching were discussing the battle. This was a battle between a spear and shield, and right now, the sturdy shield was blocking the sharp spear. If the sturdy shield couldn't be broken, it would rebound back. As a result, in this confrontation between attack and defense, it would end up as a trade. Song Qiang's strategy was to trade using a dense defense. Compared to Team Blue Rain, who could launch an explosive counterattack at any moment while defending, Song Qiang's defense was more simple and pure. To think a player like this could come out of tyranny. Countless people were clicking their tongues in wonder. Tang Rou obviously wasn't thinking the same. It was depressing. Song Qiang's control over the pace of the match felt oppressive. It wasn't that she wasn't thinking of a solution, but no matter what she did, her opponent would quickly figure it out and then eliminate it. It looked like Soft Mist was attacking, while River Sunset was defending, but for Tang Rou, it didn't feel like she was attacking. She felt like she was hitting against a wall. She would hit it again, and every time, she would bounce back. So far, she had lost 30% of her health. As for her opponent, he had only lost 15% of his health. It was an exact 2-to-1 trade, as if everything was precisely calculated. If this continued, when her opponent lost 10% more health, wouldn't it be the end for her? Tang Rou was unwilling to lose. Being unable to win would always be something she would be unhappy about. Soft Mist's attacks suddenly stopped, and she retreated several steps back. Oh. Many people sighed emotionally. She should have stopped a long time ago. Being reckless isn't a solution. Pan Lin also said. It looked as if she had the initiative, but in reality, she was being led around the nose by Song Qiang. She should have taken a pause and looked carefully for an opening. Li Yibo said. He had gone back to his fair and unbiased commentary, earnestly giving advice to Tang Rou. But what if she isn't able to find any openings? Pan Lin asked. Then, it's impossible to win. Li Yibo said. Yes, if you couldn't find any openings and you couldn't beat the opponent, then you would be the one who lost. It was very simple reasoning. What will Tang Rou do? She had always given him an impression of having a fierce offense, but in front of this unbreakable wall, how would she make adjustments? Soft Mist had stopped attacking for 5 seconds already. Song Qiang's reverse sunset didn't hurry to counterattack, but he was also pressing forward step by step. He obviously wasn't someone who only knew how to defend and didn't know how to attack. It was just that he attacked just as carefully as he defended. Is Tang Rou planning on giving the initiative to Song Qiang and then searching for an opening in his offense? Li Yibo had a few ideas. That is a decent solution, considering that she isn't able to get past her opponent's defense. But Song Qiang's cautious style will make it hard for Tang Rou to find an opening. What's more, before Li Yibo could finish speaking, a figure rushed forward. Soft Mist. Dragon breaks the ranks. After a 5 to 6 second pause, Tang Rou started attacking again, giving the initiative to Song Qiang. The idea was proven wrong before Li Yibo could even finish up his commentary. The distance was very close, and Dragon breaks the ranks wasn't an easy-to-dodge attack. However, Song Qiang's caution was such that he would always be ready for any attack. Dragon breaks the ranks. The moment Soft Mist raised her spear, River Sunset had already begun rolling to the side. Magic energy and wind collided, creating a loud boom. Dragon breaks the ranks rushed forward, but River Sunset was already moving away. However, to his surprise, Soft Mist's dancing fire-flowing flames was turned slightly towards where River Sunset would dodge to. Those who weren't perceptive enough wouldn't be able to notice this small detail. Song Qiang had noticed it though. He was the same as Zhang Xinji, someone who carefully observed the opponent and paid attention to the details. He had even determined correctly that this slight turn had happened after River Sunset had started dodging. In other words, Tang Rou hadn't predicted where he would move to, she had reacted to his movements. It had only been a slight shift to the side. But at this close of a distance and the speed of Dragon breaks the ranks, being able to make this adjustment showed how astonishing her reaction speed and hand speed was. Dragon breaks the ranks wasn't a single target attack. The collision between magic and wind dealt AoE damage. The area that the attack covered deviated slightly from where it was before, but luckily for Song Qiang, he was still able to dodge it. Song Qiang could see it clearly. Even with this adjustment, the Dragon breaks the ranks wouldn't be able to hit him. If Soft Mist had been a bit further, if the adjustment had been slightly bigger, the outcome might have been different. Song Qiang was still thinking about this, when suddenly saw a flash of red light before him. How? He was shocked. He instinctively dodged, evading this sudden attack. It missed and then there was nothing afterwards. That sudden attack wasn't from Dragon breaks the ranks. If it had been, he wouldn't have been able to dodge the AoE. Song Qiang saw Soft Mist retract her red spear. It looked like she wasn't done with her assault. River Sunset and Soft Mist had been about 4-5 steps away previously. With only a distance of 4-5 steps, she was able to use Dragon breaks the ranks, adjust it, cancel it, and then follow up with another attack to make up for what her Dragon breaks the ranks couldn't cover. Even though it ultimately didn't work, Song Qiang felt his body go cold. What was more terrifying was that it wasn't over yet. The red light quickly returned. Shua Shua, 2 thrusts in quick succession, double stab. River Sunset didn't dodge because Song Qiang knew that if he only dodged, he would lose control over the tempo. He would lose control over the fight. The pause from Tang Rou was to give Song Qiang a chance to attack. The people who thought that were gravely mistaken. The pause looked to be a short mid-fight break. What came after was an even fiercer and more explosive assault. When she attacked, she didn't make any probes, nor did she hold back. She went all out with her attacks. More importantly, whenever Song Qiang made any changes, she would immediately react to it. She was accelerating the tempo to her maximum speed, biting tightly onto her opponent. It was dangerous for the enemy and for herself. It was obviously very difficult to maintain such a tempo. It would be easier for her to make a mistake, and for Tang Rou, a single mistake could mean the end for her. Poo-poo. 2 streaks of blood from River Sunset flew into the air. Song Qiang didn't dodge the skill, tanking the damage. River Sunset stepped forward and let out a punch. Wuxia-WorldAudio.com. He needed to respond with a few attacks so he could keep the tempo of the fight under his control. He punched but he missed. Soft Miss looked as if she didn't even dodge. However, the punch had missed by just a hair. When Han Wenqing saw this scene, he couldn't help but feel emotional. The spear was long, while the fist was short. A stab was the spear attack with the longest reach. If the striker wanted to attack after taking the hit, he would need to get close to her first. He had encountered this challenge repeatedly when he had fought with Yi Shu in the past. Yi Shu would always take advantage of these sort of situations. The punch missed, but Soft Mist's counterattack arrived. Song Qiang was able to find an opening to use reinforced iron bones and had River Sunset take the hit again to continue his attacks. He needed to control the tempo, and he could no longer rely on just defense to do so. Song Qiang focused on his offense. But Tang Rou didn't retreat. She also knew where the key to her victory lay in. She couldn't stop. If she stopped, she would lose without a doubt. The pace of the fight soared, quickly following the style of today's group arena again. Fist and spear clashed, making everyone think of the former rivalry between Han Wenqing and Yi Shu. What made many Tyranny fans annoyed was that the battle mage played the way they liked. Fortunately, Song Qiang wasn't bad either. Facing this fierce opponent, he didn't cower. Who won today's group arena would be decided through a contest of force. Who would win? For a moment, no one could tell. Soft Mist had less health, but she held the advantage. River Sunset's health was dropping faster. And at this tempo, it was very easy for a mistake to happen. It was possible for a last-second comeback. Everyone quieted down, focusing on the match. Even Pan Lin and Li Yibo had stopped talking. With the speed they were going, how were they supposed to commentate? They might as well wait for the outcome and then analyzing it from there. Bang! In the end, with one final collision, the winner was decided. Song Qiang, River Sunset. In the end, he stood until the end. Tyranny had won the group arena. Although Tang Rou had lost, she had used 20% of her health to take down 60% of River Sunset's health. Her performance had been astonishing. The group arena ended. The two players walked out from their booths amidst thunderous applause. The applause was for Song Qiang's win as well as Tang Rou's performance. Even though Tang Rou wasn't well liked by the public and used Tyranny's most hated class, the Battle Mage, Tyranny fans loved the way she played. Since they liked it, they happily applauded. This was just how Tyranny's fans were. End chapter.